I'm a feminist, but although I have spent time in the past wishing I were Britney, writhing in a music video, looking like the hottest person in the world, etc., if they brought that python anywhere near me, I would scream like a baby, I would jump on a chair, I would run out, I would have an hysterical fit, and I would play into every stereotype that women can't handle reptiles in the world.
Who do you think I am, Bindi Irwin?
That's exactly what I would say. Who do you think I am, Bindi Irwin? I couldn't. I just physically couldn't do it, and it wouldn't matter how much you were paying me. It wouldn't matter. I could never do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, mostly because I have dignity. But no, listen, some of my friends have done it, and yay. But I could not. And one of the reasons I could not is I left Australia precisely because everything wants to kill you. And I am not going back there into the deepest, darkest forests where they're going to jump on you. So I just physically couldn't. It's not like, oh, well, I'd have hypnotherapy. I couldn't and I wouldn't. And also, I wouldn't want to have hypnotherapy because then I would like snakes and I don't want to like them.
Yeah, because you get too comfortable, you get too friendly. They train little baby orangutans to be afraid of snakes that aren't born in the wild because they don't know, but it's important that they do know. And so they'll like sit them around all calm and they're just having a good time, and then they'll like throw this fake snake at them and be like, ah, and they're like, danger! And then they learn.
That sounds somewhat abusive, if you ask me.
They gotta learn.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, we should do another episode on whether orangutans are being treated correctly, in my opinion.
First of all, no, the palm oil industry is ruining their lives.
Yeah, this needs a thorough investigation. Do you want to do another feminist bar?
So many feelings about little baby primates. Oh, so cute. You ever seen them eat stuff? Oh, my God. Look, I'm a feminist, but I don't believe any woman who says that she's watching football games for the joy of it and not to see men's butts. I'm just not buying it. I don't believe it. I don't trust it. They're liars. That's the end of it. Don't try to argue with me. They're liars. That's it.
There were some very handsome ones, and I have to say...
So cute.
Yeah. Did you watch the tennis on Sunday?
Oh my God, no, I don't watch any of those things. I just see the little photos when they come out after, when they look happy or sad. And one of my favorite things about runny sports, right, the runny ones, basketball, football, I was going to say soccer, but I'm trying to respect the nation that I am in.
Thank you. Your nation thanks you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, your adopted nation thanks
you. Something Britannia, however the song goes. It's like, I stand Britannia.
I'm pretty sure the original number is not I stand Britannia, but listen, it would be an improvement.
Britannia, we stand.
I think it's Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. I think
not a good song, actually.
No. We've stopped singing that one, except at the last night of the proms where they go, They're
like, it's a thing. I guess this is also not very feminist, but like, I just love that those people, like, their job is just to exercise. Like, the ab to no ab ratio is ridiculous in that workforce. You don't get that in the corporate world, that many abs.
No, it's impressive. It's absolutely impressive. But if you are interested in Googling who came runner-up in the tennis...
Yeah.
Did anyone else see Berrettini, the Italian? Yeah.
Attractive. Was that a woo like, yes, we know him, or woo like, oh, Berrettini?
It was, I'm a feminist, but it was, Berrettini.
Okay, turn up.
I'm a feminist, but Berrettini could restring my racket.
Turn up.
And also, what a good tennis player. I admire him for his skills. It is not for me to objectify a man who I assume is much younger than me because he plays tennis professionally and, he's breaking through. So he's probably...
Respect.
Yeah, I don't know. How old is Berrettini? Probably 23 or something? Sorry?
Wow.
25.
See, the way that y'all know that.
Did you say 20 to 25 or... Oh, he's 25.
Oh, so quick and ready with the thing. How old is he, 25?
What is his star sign? Do you know it?
Do your research.
I'm not into star signs, but I feel I have to be now because everyone else is, so I try and be current.
Pisces sun, Cancer moon, Aries rising. A lot of feelings, but I get shit done.
I'm Sagittarius, and...
I don't know what that means, but
we're very skeptical about astrology. Very skeptical. Do you want to do an I'm a Feminist part?
Yeah, why not? Why not? I'm a feminist, but I don't believe that women or gender non-conforming people can be football hooligans. Yeah, I said it, okay? We can't do everything that men can do. So sue me, But I know what you're not going to do. You're not going to beat me up because you can't. You're not capable of it.
Listen, I need to tell you something about some of my people, by which I mean white, straight, cis women.
Oh, the whites.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Some of them can be hooligans. Not me, just to be clear. Also, I'm bisexual, so I duck out of this category.
I don't believe it.
You don't believe I'm bisexual?
No, not that. I very much believe. We've had chats. Look, not like flirty chats, but like chats about them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like little queer chats. But like, I don't know. I think there's a certain kind of like rage that has to come from just like a nasty place that can only be described as straight balls.
Fair enough. Do you know what? I think it comes from this. It's the only time that a certain sort of man, hashtag not all men, that a certain sort of man can express happiness, sadness, love,
racism,
and well... And singing. They're singing. When do they get to sing? But on the terraces, they get to sing. It's all of their kind of suppressed humanity.
Yeah. Oh, I know. My dad, he loves the sports, which is why I won't watch them. They've taken enough from my family already.
I'm a feminist, but if I thought I could get away with it, and I definitely can't, I would just once go out like Britney in Hit Me Baby One More Time. Just like to a party. Yeah, just in that sort of that. I do find it, and this is really a terrible admission, and I'm sorry, but this is the confessional part of the show.
Yeah, that's the part. That's what it is.
So forgive me, feminism for I've sinned, but I do have a little thing for anything preppy. I love clothes that look like a school uniform. I love it. I'm always drawn to sort of something navy with a white trim or something like that. And there is something of the school uniform about that really does do it for me. And obviously I'm not going to dress like that. I would look ridiculous, like with little pink bunches.
Well,
but you know,
don't knock it until you try. What'd you say to me? Never say never.
Never say never. But I really should say never about dressing up like a schoolgirl. I feel like I just think that should be a private pleasure, and one that should not be inflicted on the world, much like putting a firecracker in your anus. It's a private pleasure. If you're listening internationally, one of our football supporters of this great nation did do that, and it was very much a memed.
Just a moment where I was just like, wow, I'm so proud that I live in this country.
I'm so sorry. Are you done? Have you got any more?
I do. I have another.
Go on.
Very controversial. Everyone get ready to be upset with me. So I'm a feminist, but I watch Love Island, and
you're not alone.
I know I'm not. It's crazy. It feels like I cycle. Like I know it's manufactured and nonsense, but it really does feel like you take the roof off of like a rat maze, and then you're just like, what are they doing? It's madness to me, and somebody should criticize them. They're not checked. Their behavior is so unchecked. Anyway, they were playing this game where they were like, guess what your partner doesn't like in women or something like that. And this one guy was like, I don't like fake stuff. And he was basically talking about procedures and whatnot. He was like, I don't like fake. And he did use the word fake too much, but I was just, even though I believe in bodily autonomy, I was just glad somebody said it. Because there are just loads of I'm just like, what does this say to the youth of the UK when 6 out of 7 or whatever of the Love Island contestants have had some kind of procedure? I feel like it says this is what is the standard of attractiveness, and this isn't a joke. It's just kind of a rant.
I hear you. I'm a feminist, but I was, two things. One is on Too Hot to Handle. They were talking about a certain amount of prize money, and I don't know what it was, 60,000 or something. And one of them said that. One of them said,
"Fuck it away."
Well, one of them said that's like 3 boob jobs, and I thought, well, how many do you need? Firstly,
What math is this?
But that was for her. It was like, when people say like it's 10 cans of Coke, or that's like the deposit on a house. That was her metric, and I was like, and this is not for me. I've had friends who've had boob jobs. There are some people who absolutely need to access boob jobs because they've had a mastectomy, they're trans, there's all sorts of things. Or they just want to when they've breastfed. This is not for me, a woman who has not breastfed, to tell anybody else what to do with her breasts. But that is that base standard of what we must get. But, I'm a feminist, but I was secretly so thrilled that I met a woman at a party who's one of those doctors that does butt lifts, and she told me somebody came in and asked for a butt like mine, Deborah Frances-White.
This is a huge moment.
Okay, it's not that huge a moment, Keema.
No, this is great.
I just took exception to the word huge.
I love
it's
that.
a medium-sized, perky moment. No, I do have a... I do have a huge bum, but
it's a delicious little caboose. What are you going to do about it?
Well, do you know, when I was younger, it was all Kate Moss, and big bums were not fashionable at all, and it was just constant.
Yeah,
sort of
you gotta be on the cocaine and water diet, and if you have too much water, you're gonna bloat.
And I was never going to have a small bum. It just wasn't on the cards for me. And because Jesus loves me, I assume, big bums have come into fashion. And now somebody has walked in, some small-bummed woman has walked into a doctor and said, I want the Deborah Frances-White. This is a big moment for me. I will be honest.
Wow.
I'm finally a bum icon.
Wow. This is huge.
Again, not huge.
This is
perky and well-sized.
This is plump and lifted.
Okay. Live from King's Place in London, the Spontaneity Shop presents The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Keema Bob, and our very special guests, Disabled Eliza, Dr. Annabel Sowemimo, Grace Davies and Pandora Sykes, talking about Free Britney! This is The Guilty Feminist, the podcast in which we explore our noble goals as 21st century feminists, our hypocrisies and insecurities which undermine them. I'm Deborah Frances-White, with me is Keema Bob, and we're talking about Free Britney!
Yeah!
Okay.
Hey, gang.
Keema, how are you?
Pretty cool, actually.
Now, when I said on Twitter we were going to do a Britney Spears episode, you immediately contacted me within seconds and said, I want in.
Yeah, on multiple ways. I think I slid in your DMs and texted you, and I was like, I think it was a kind of like a soft death threat, and I was like, if you let anyone else host this, it will be the end. That's why it was very vague, threatening, and here I am. I'm just like very passionate about this as a young woman who works in entertainment, who deals with mental health issues. I feel like this story, this situation, encapsulates so many of like my fears, but also like other people's fears as well. Like there's so much to be afraid of, but also angry about. And I can say that I'm both of those at the same time. I multitask like a good little lady.
Yeah, it's a scary situation. Is it something you fear?
I think what freaks me out, is that, people who deal with mental health issues, there's a range of functionality that we can have. And the idea that someone who's not me would be able to say, too unwell to decide who your doctor is, who your therapist is, to spend your money, etc. It's terrifying. It's like, and when we look at Britney Spears, like she's been working since she was like a kid, And
I know. I know that. Because I know that she was a musketeer.
Yeah.
But some of this audience forgot that.
Yeah.
Forgot that. But they know now, though. That's important. That's why they've come here. They've come here to learn
about those years exactly.
A full. Well, look. To be honest, I did know she was a musketeer, But I didn't know she was a Mouseketeer. I knew she was a Mouseketeer with Justin Timberlake, but I didn't know she was a Mouseketeer. I didn't think, well, I probably had heard it and forgotten until I listened to Pandora Sykes' brilliant show.
What does that mean? Like, what is a Mouseketeer at all? What is that?
Okay, you're American. Concept? How do you not know that?
Well, I wasn't alive then, I don't think.
Well, that's disappointing and depressing.
I think I was still on soft foods when she was a Mouseketeer.
Okay, all right.
They lost their relevance later.
Okay, don't rub it in. Okay. You're a young woman. Yes, we get it. Very, very, very young. So
I'm 3 years old, Debs. How am I speaking?
You're very advanced for your months. When I was a child, the Mouseketeer Club was a thing. So these children would come out and sing and dance, and then they would wear like little mouse ears on their head. You know, if you go to Disneyland and you can buy those ears? Yeah.
I love a mouse ear.
Well, listen, you would have been a great Mouseketeer.
It's too late for that now.
I mean, listen, never say never. Children would come out and then they would sing songs. And maybe they didn't get it here because no one knew the song. But in Australia, we got the Mouseketeers.
What was the song?
Yeah, it's...
what was the song?
Hey there, how there, hi there, you're as welcome as can be. M-I-C-K-Y, M-I-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse.
Oh, it's all coming
Mickey
back
Mouse.
to me.
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Forever where shall we hold the banner high? Hi, hi, hi.
Which is just kind of weird to like praise your allegiance to a mouse.
Yeah, actually, looking back, it is a little odd. Yeah, because it is a forever song. It's got a touch of the fascist regime about it. Looking back,
yeah, it's kind of hardcore. It's when I've known some people who I studied theater in college, so of course I went to school with some people who became Disney princesses, and they seem very unhappy. But I think what freaks me out about this is just like, if this can happen to a very famous, very rich, blonde white woman, what chance does anyone else have? And it's really spooky because, like, crises happen all the time. People lose their shit every day. And I feel like we should have more space and understanding in our society for that. And I'm really excited for the people that you've invited on to chat to us about it because they seem to really know their shit. And while I'm just afraid and angry, they have, like, facts.
Yes. Yes, that's what I'm excited about. I have feelings and theories.
Yeah.
I have hypotheses.
Yeah.
If anyone's interested in a mild hypothesis.
Ooh, a tinfoil hat, it's on me.
That's... I will make you a tinfoil hat with mouse ears.
Thank you so much.
Well, feminism is coming home, even if football isn't. That's right, we made it all the way home, baby, all the way home. I hesitated because I thought, what if I said Britney Spears, your host for this evening, Britney Spears, like what reaction would I get? And then I thought, an amazing one, and then I would walk out and I would get disappointment. And I can't have that because this is only the 4th time I've left my house in a year and a half, so I need only celebration of my presence. We are talking about Free Britney and conservatorships. And this is important to know about because the truth is all successful women in show business and hot young men in show business are basically Wagyu beef. You know those cows in Japan and they just like fill them up with Guinness and massage them and treat them really well, but it's not going to end well for them? Do you know, they're plumping them up for your delectation when you go to a restaurant and you go, this is the best beef I've ever had. Yes, that's all pop stars. That's all, but sometimes also comedians. I have had Wagyu beef moments. That's right. Oh, I've been pumped full of gift bags and Botox. I'm not lying when I say, there are times when you're wheeled out and there is a cash cow element to your existence. I'm not comparing myself to Britney Spears in any way, except I think she would also rock this jumpsuit. Also, my loneliness is killing me. Of course, we all had aspirations to be Britney Spears when we were younger. We saw her writhing and flipping her hair and thought, God, that looks like a great job. Turns out, no. Turns out it's not a great job. Turns out it sucks your humanity out like a Dyson. It turns out that you end up as half a person desperately struggling, going, please, can you see me? Do you remember the Friends reunion? Surely you do. It was only 2 weeks ago. The Friends reunion. You know, when they turned out and you just looked at them and went, yeah, this doesn't make you happy. I still want it, though. I still believe it would make me happy. Who still believes? Still believe? Who still believes? There's a lot of Britney lyrics. It's going to happen a lot tonight. I don't know what to tell you. I will do it a lot. And if I don't do it because I miss one, could somebody here do it? Does anyone think they know a lot of Britney lyrics? Give us a cheer. Yes, okay. Could somebody take responsibility, if you hear a Britney lyric, to shout it or sing it in its original form? Anybody here? Yes, what's your name? Sophie. Okay, all right. So, for example, if I were to say, I still believe, you would go... No, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. I may need to do auditions for this. I'm going to need this to feel full of heart and pump, and it's going to need to reach the sound desk. Do we need a few people to do it at the same time? That is not one person to do it. It's a lot, Sophie. This is a lot to take on. You were not prepped before the show. I think it's a lot to ask. You don't want to be Wagyu. No, absolutely. But listen, learning fast. Don't want to be Wagyu. Don't want to be one of the Friends. It's a miserable life. People just see you as Rachel and then they can't date you properly because all they're doing is going, oh my God, I'm with Rachel, in their head over and over and over for the full course of the relationship until you leave them on a sidewalk somewhere. That is how it works. So we might need a few people. So just give us a cheer if you're up for this. Great. Okay. So I'm going to say... I'm going to do a more subtle one now to see if they get it. And I often think everybody wants a piece of me. Thank you. Good, strong work. That's right. That's very strong work. I know it's hard because it's hot and you're in masks, and so you feel less like engaging, laughing, singing lyrics. It might even be still illegal to sing lyrics. Is it still illegal? I think the only legal song to sing as a group now is Football's Coming Home. And we are allowed to sing that on a loop, apparently, but nothing else. There are times in my life, definitely, I felt controlled. I spent some time in a cult, which I've talked about, where men made all my decisions for me. In that way, I do relate to Britney Spears very much. That I was a reverse Britney Spears, because I had men policing me to look more dowdy. She will have someone come along and go, that's not low cut enough. That was not my problem. I literally had a skirt to here. And by the way, I was 19 and my skirt was on my knee. But when I sat down, it sort of crept up a bit in the way that skirts do because of physics. Brother Ron and Brother Alan. Basically, what would happen is I would go to the Kingdom Hall behaving like a devout and dowdy young woman, Sister Deborah, as I was then, thank you, and, funnily enough, in a nearby congregation, someone I saw at parties a lot was called Brother Peter, a man who, in those days, all girls were mysterious. That's right, it was Peter Andre. True story. I bumped into him. A lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses go into pop. Jerry Halliwell, it happens a lot, or fame in some sort. I suppose if you've knocked on doors telling people that they're wrong on a Sunday morning, just performing is just not scary anymore. It's just... So, God, I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oops. Thank you. Yes. Come on. Now we're cooking with gas. Yes. Come on. So, genuinely what would happen is I would go to the meeting in something dowdy and conservative, and then 2 plumbers and an electrician would come to my house the next day and tell me that what I was wearing was too short. That's true. They were not men who had been to theological college. I don't know how that would have made it better, but it would have felt somehow better. And I did this a show on Radio 4 about it, and I had a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses writing to me and saying, you were in a very fancy congregation to have 2 plumbers and an electrician. It was only window cleaners where I lived. And that is true. Nothing wrong with any of those professions, all perfectly noble professions, nothing wrong. I mean, certainly I would love to be able to rewire a plug or undo a loo, or, I don't know, my windows are horribly dirty. I'd be delighted. I never paid for any of those services when I was a Jehovah's Witness. That was one huge advantage. And I assume Britney doesn't pay for, I don't know, snakes. But whatever the people around her do. But, in many other ways she does, because she is not allowed access to her own bank accounts or, as it turns out, her own cervix. So we have an incredible panel tonight to talk about these things, and I want to crack on as fast as possible because our panel is learned. They are feminist as fuck. And you are going to leave here a throbbing, fizzing, information bubble, ball of energy going out into the world to talk about the idea of women being owned and controlled and how easy it is for it to happen and how fucking difficult it is to happen to Justin Timberlake, if I'm honest. It's much harder for him, right? He's producing his own music. He's producing his own films. He's trusted to have a dog. There's so many things about his life that's different from Britney Spears' life. And we cannot kid ourselves and say gender doesn't play into that. So are you ready for the show to begin? Hello, Guilty Feminist. I need to tell you about a very exciting show that's happening this Saturday, the 24th of July, noon, at Soho Theatre, Dean Street, London. It's the Guilty Feminist at Shedinburgh. That's right. Last year there was no Edinburgh Festival, but there was a Shedinburgh Festival. It was a shed on stage at the Soho Theatre. And the Shed Station of 2020 will return for another packed edition of the best French theatre, comedy, music and spoken word. So if you come along noon on Saturday, obviously get a ticket because they are limited. You will be able to see me in conversation with a Guilty Feminist regular, and we will be answering your questions as well as doing some I'm a Feminist but stand up, that kind of thing. In a way, you're the guest. So come along, join us at noon. You're not doing anything at noon. You've got no plans. Of course you haven't. It's Saturday. Come along and join us. It's going to be really exciting and fun. Tickets are at sohotheatre.com. Now, on the 10th and 11th of September, we have two really big, spectacular, all singing, all dancing shows at the Southbank Centre. We're at the Queen Elizabeth Hall, 7:30 p.m. Get your tickets now at southbankcentre.co.uk. Or you can find tickets to anything at guiltyfeminist.com and click through. We will be coming to Australia and New Zealand in October and November. Some of the best shows we've ever done have been in Australia and New Zealand, so we're very, very excited to come back. We will be on the 21st of October in Wellington, 22nd in Christchurch, 23rd in Auckland, 26th in Sydney, 29th in Perth, 31st in Canberra, 3rd of November in Adelaide, the 5th of November in Melbourne, and the 8th of November in Brisbane. So get tickets now, guiltyfeminist.com. If any of the dates have to move, we'll transfer your ticket over or refund your money. So buy with confidence, but do buy as soon as you possibly can because tickets to the Australian New Zealand shows always sell out. And now back to the podcast. First guest today is a content creator who works to raise disability awareness and encourage LGBTQ plus positivity. Please welcome Disabled Eliza. Our next guest is the founder of the community interest organisation Decolonising Contraception and a trustee for the charity MedAct. Please welcome Dr. Annabel Sowemimo. Third guest is a critically acclaimed singer-songwriter from Blackburn who came second on the X Factor as the first contestant in the show's history to perform all original music throughout. Please welcome Grace Davies! And finally, please welcome back to the Guilty Feminist, the writer and presenter of a new 8-part pod doc for BBC Radio 4 called Pieces of Britney. It's Pandora Sykes! All our guests. Hey. Okay.
I love an extra large panel. I feel like there was Magic Mike XXL. This is like Guilty Feminist XXXL. I love it.
It's very much how it's planned, but there's just so many sides to this story, and we want to cover them. And just to say, I did check backstage that Eliza wanted to be introduced as Disabled Eliza because I don't want to get emails of people going, don't bring your guests on as Disabled Eliza.
It's okay. Disabled isn't a bad word.
No, I know. But I still feel like I need to say that's how I was asked to introduce you by you.
To be fair, I did go to my PO box the other day and the lady behind the desk, somebody had addressed it to Disabled Eliza and she was like, somebody said something really offensive on your
Oh.
And I was really taken. I was like, oh, what have they said? And it was just it's because it's my username. So
I love that that's a part of your work, destigmatizing disability.
Yes, disabled is not a bad word. I will preach that till the end of the day.
It's important. It's important. So first of all, let's come to Pandora, because I've listened to your amazing Radio 4 show about Britney, and you seem to be like a world expert on Britney. You have done so much research into what's happened. So do you want to give us a little overview, Pandora, of the conservatorship, because you covered it so brilliantly on your Radio 4 show?
So I get quite scared ever talking about the conservatorship just because it is so complex and there's things coming out every day. There's so many myths around it, so much unfounded information that I worry that I might have missed something. But what I understand to have happened is that in 2008, beginning of 2009, Britney was placed in 2 involuntary psychiatric holds. And after the second involuntary psychiatric hold, she was put in a temporary conservatorship by her parents. That did not necessarily mean it would become permanent, but hers was very quickly made permanent. And the conservatorship, the probate conservatorship that Britney is currently in and has been for 13 years, exists in 2 parts. It's a conservatorship of her person, and it's a conservatorship of her estate. So of her person, it means, we now know that it went as far as her not being allowed to have her coil removed. Mm-hmm. She's not allowed to get married because she can't sign a legal contract. She is, according to her, she is paid $2,000 a week allowance, which is compared to the $4,000 that her father takes as a co-conservator. She's had a number of different conservators looking after her person and her estate. The one constant has been her father, but there have been other people, such as a man named Andrew Wallet, who was paid almost $500,000 a year. I know.
Wallet.
Nominative determinism. It's good, that, isn't
it? So gross. It kills me.
And then most recently, Jamie, her father, was a co-conservator with the Bessemer Trust, which is like a finance, they're worth like 100 billion, so I'm guessing they do all sorts of financially things. So they were handling like the estate side of it. The slightly complicated thing, and when I was writing the show, what I was really confused about, is that she's actually in a voluntary conservatorship, but she never petitioned to be removed from it. However, in her testimony a couple of weeks ago, she said that she didn't know she could. And shortly after that, her court-appointed lawyer, because she wasn't allowed to choose her own lawyer, 13 years ago she was deemed mentally incapable of choosing her own lawyer, her court-appointed lawyer has now stood down. We don't know how much of what he relayed to her or didn't relay to her. But he has now stepped down, as has the Bessemer Trust. They have said now that they know she wants to leave the conservatorship, they don't want to be in charge of her estate.
Now that they know, side eye, side eye, side eye.
It's so difficult to know who knew what. Ultimately, most people knew she was in a conservatorship who worked with her or who were in anything with her, because she was in it in 2009, and even when she went on the X Factor in the UK, and Simon Cowell is then kind of, on Ellen going, oh, she didn't talk very much, she wasn't very chatty. They knew she was in a conservatorship. Like, everything was so highly managed around her. Mm-hmm. You could not work with her and not know she was in one. However, there's obviously lots of people saying that they didn't know the depths of what kind of managing and manipulation was of her.
And it's playing fast and loose with the word voluntary if you don't know you're in something voluntary. So if you are locked in a room and you try the door and it seems to be locked, and then later someone says, oh, well, there was a key up on a high shelf behind you the whole time, but you couldn't see it or access it, then it's not as voluntary as all of that. So, Eliza, can we come to you? Because you talk about this from a disability activist perspective. In Britain, we don't have conservatorships, do we?
No. So we have something called a deputyship, which is a lot less strict. There's a few other things as well. You may have been one. So if you have a family member that became unwell, you may step in to kind of look after what they're doing with their money. However, in America, it's a lot stricter. So in the UK, the rules of you're allowed to decide what you want to do. If you want to go and get a coffee, you can go and get a coffee. You choose what you want. And in fact, in some situations, somebody may be your deputyship and say like, oh, I think you need some new shoes, let's say, but you don't want to buy them, and so they can't force you to do that, for example. Right. And they can't spend more than £500 without kind of a court saying, yep, that's okay, so you can't just go and spend £5 million of your dad's money or whatever.
You said backstage something that terrified me. You said most people end up in a deputyship at some point in their life.
Well, it's not necessarily that, everybody in this room is going to end up, but it's not something that's super rare. But it's nothing to be scared of. It's something that might happen to you if you become unwell and you're 80 and you develop dementia, for example. You may get put in a position where you need help and support. And that's what it is. It's there to help and support you. So your kind of decisions are not taken away. Your human rights are not taken away. It's just that you may need a little bit of extra help. So, for example, you may struggle when you're older to read a legal document and you may need somebody to sign it for you.
So that's when you give, like, your parents will say, oh, by the way, we want to give you power of attorney.
Yes.
And they're perfectly young and lucid and planning a trip to Provence. But they say to you, we just want to do this with you because what if we suddenly aren't and then we don't want a stranger taking over?
Exactly. So it's nothing kind of in the UK, although there are a lot of issues with disability, we don't quite have the same thing, that somebody isn't going to come in and be like, I own all of your decisions now. And in fact, it's actually very hard to do that. So things like when we're talking about sectioning, for example, it can be very difficult for that to happen in the UK. But
what's the situation then with the conservatorship in America? Do disabled people fear this massively?
So interestingly, I actually asked my audience, and a couple of them had been put in them, and they do fear them. So America doesn't actually track how many people are in them, conveniently, but it's around 1.3 million people are currently in one. So it's not like 10 people. We're talking like 1 million people are currently under one. And when we're talking about Britney, we're talking about somebody that has, millions and millions of fans who are here, has stories all over the news. When we're talking about something that is affecting more than 1 million disabled people right now who don't have that support. So yeah, it's quite scary when you actually get into it.
Has Britney identified as disabled?
Not that I know of. And this is kind of an argument that lots of people will bring up and be like, but Britney's not really disabled. But the truth is, whether or not Britney identifies as disabled or not, she's being impacted by disability laws. So these laws are designed for disabled people. Whether or not she uses that label, whether or not she is or isn't disabled, in some ways is a bit irrelevant because she's being impacted by disability laws. And should disabled people, if they are disabled, ever be put in a position where every single decision is taken away from them for life?
Bam.
We're not talking about, maybe there might be a situation where somebody needs help for 6 months, 2 years, but do they need to have that autonomy taken away forever? And that's the issue. Are we saying that people can't improve with help? Are we saying that we can just decide that somebody at a certain age is no longer going to be able to make any decisions ever again?
Does this happen to women and people of minority genders more than men?
Looking at the research, it's difficult to say because when we look at disability, it comes from a lens where people when you're disabled, you're kind of a bit othered, and it's kind of like, oh, well, you're just an over there. You're not part of my problem because you've got something wrong with you. And when you actually start to kind of look through it through kind of like feminism and through like a kind of leftist angle, it becomes very scary because you start to see the ableism that really runs through it. And because there isn't any exact statistics, it's really difficult to say who's more affected. But I mean, looking at our society, we can take an educated guess that yes.
That will probably be the case.
Yes.
Yeah. Annabel, you look like you're wanting to come in there.
Yeah. So thanks, firstly, for inviting me. And I think the Britney story for me is so powerful because it shines a light on just such a range of issues. So we'll go down the line of the reproductive issues, but the psychiatric and how I think often medicine is framed as doing kind of good, and as a doctor I like to think that for the most part I'm trying to do good and right by my patients, but I think that often people look at it within a void and remove the kind of historical context of medicine sometimes and how it's acted less favourably and actually as an oppressive factor for marginalised groups. So disabled people that are racially marginalised, women, the list goes on, people that are gender non-conforming. Medicine's always acted in that vein. Just to come back on the point regarding the disparities, does this happen more to people of colour? if you look in the UK context and you think about psychiatric health, Black people are much more likely to be diagnosed with conditions like schizophrenia. Britney Spears, as I understand it, has been diagnosed with bipolar, but psychotic illnesses, and much more likely, the data shows, to have their liberties restricted, so end up in secure units with more severe kind of measurements placed on them, end up there for longer periods of time. And the end result of being sectioned is that people act within your best interest. So if somebody thinks that you shouldn't have a baby because it might make your psychosis worse, then that's precisely what happens. So there is a disproportionate impact when it comes to Black and brown people in this country, and same data in the US as well. Often in predominantly white countries that is the case, and we haven't really explained these statistics, and they've been bandied around now for decades.
I think a part of it has to do with like the way that we code how people behave and not like understanding folks. I wanted to jump in because I went to a psychiatric hospital after I had a big breakdown, and it was like right before my 20th birthday. It was scandalous. I was stressed out. I was working too much. I was schooling too much. I wasn't sleeping. It was everything. And my brain was like, I can't do this. And I ended up in a hospital where my autonomy was taken away. My mom thought it was the best thing for me at the time, but it actually ended up being a more traumatizing than helpful experience. Oh, I'm going to write a book. And they actually prescribed me lithium at one point, which is what Britney was saying that she was prescribed. And let me tell you, I felt so horrible. It felt like a tranquilizer for like my being. I don't know how to describe it, but I just remember telling my mom, I feel gray. And my mom is a chemist. She believes in medicine and the system and whatnot. And she just said to me, well, that's what meds feel like. And I was like, no. So I stopped taking it, maybe not in the best way possible, but now I'm on medicine that actually works for me and I actually feel like myself. And so when I heard that she was, on that quite powerful drug that can permanently impact the way that your mind functions if you're on it long enough, it's just heartbreaking. And I think that's something that is really important to remember in this. You can medicate someone to the point that they are not themselves. And they are not functioning at whatever capacity they could, And also, in addition to medication, like, people do need healing and therapy. And when we look at Britney's life and the work that she does, I feel like there's loads of reasons to be traumatized. And I think she would really benefit from like a trauma-based approach instead of a let's control you and feed you these pills approach.
Oh my God, I don't think anyone should be allowed to be famous before they're 25 anymore because there's too many opinions, We
got to get these kids up. Eliza, get off TikTok.
Seriously, like there's just, you're 18 and you screw up or, everyone doesn't like your song or whatever. Terrifying. And it's like, it used to be there were 4 or 5 papers who would say something about it. Now, there's like literally millions of people screaming their opinion at you. And I just think it's so bad for your brain. And if your brain is not yet, your brain doesn't fully, I don't know, Annabel, tell me here. Your brain doesn't fully
develop until
25.
Yeah, so through your adolescence it is, you're more likely, they say, to make kind of snapshot decisions and, judge character incorrectly because it's still developing, and that's why people, I guess, need a bit more supervision or oversight about their decision making. But I honestly agree that I'm a bit worried about a generation that's on the internet a little bit too early and what that's going to mean for people's development. But I'm probably going off.
No. It's part of it. We're all famous to the people who follow us now, and we're all trying to put out pictures to...
That's a very strong word, but thank you.
But, you might be 16, but you can be famous to your friends by posing in, sort of particularly coy ways. I don't know, like, Grace, you were on X Factor. Were you very young when you were on it?
I was 20, yeah. So I was the oldest in my category. I shared a bedroom with 2 16-year-olds. And honestly, I would not have been able to do that when I was 16, because for me, it was completely traumatic, and I'd never suffered from mental health issues in my life until I went through that TV show. So to do that as a child is ridiculous. I don't know how they went through that. And I think that's something that I'm very wary of when guiding other people that want to join in the industry. I'm like, please just wait until you know that this is what you want to do, and you're kind of the age where you can make your own decisions and not be, because I think a lot of parents are like, oh, go on X Factor, like we'll make you into a star, and it's like you know, you can now go on when you're 14, which you've not even finished your GCSEs.
Can I ask, what about the process made it traumatic? Was it the gays, or people like chatting about you, at you?
Yeah, I
That's
think
the gays with a Z, I think.
Yeah, was it the gays?
I did wonder.
Very tough, the gays.
Yeah, very, very bitchy about your outfits.
Well, you know, it's the whole conversation. No, I think I personally was probably very naive to the TV side of it. I was just someone who'd sung my whole life and wrote songs and wanted to be a singer. I think when you're little, every boy wants to be
Beautiful
a footballer. Thank you.
Listen, before I came, I was like, okay, great.
But I think, yeah, every little boy wants to be a footballer and every little girl wants to be a pop star. And I think I'd always had it in my head that I wanted to do that. And so when you go on a TV show like that, you're kind of naive to the fact that they do want to make you cry and they want to see the drama. And I was not prepared for that at all. I was like, I write songs in my bedroom and I want to sing them to an audience and release them. And I don't want to be part of this kind of contrived reality TV show.
Did they say stuff like, can you tell us about a time when you tried drugs / somebody you loved was ill?
I mean, there is a lot of that. I had no sob story. I was like, I'm 20, I work in a warehouse and I sing. Take me on. But, you know, they definitely tried to pull things out of me, like my grandparents having dementia and Alzheimer's, and that was something that was very private to my family that the press managed to get hold of. And it's just like, they really want that out of you. And I cry at everything. It is the first emotion that comes out of me. And unfortunately, I was the massive crybaby of the series because it's an experience. Like, there's so many highs and so many lows. And yeah, it's traumatic.
For sure.
For anyone, whether you're 16 or 40, you know?
Yeah. And so imagine if that's sort of almost your only life, which I think it was for Britney. Pandora, can you talk a bit more about where you think Britney might be now and what you think might be going to happen? Or is that too speculative?
I mean, I don't think any of us have any idea. And I think the slightly complicated thing about us hearing from her directly a couple of weeks ago, and obviously it was leaked to Instagram, it was filmed, you know, illegally, which again, I felt very uncomfortable about.
I didn't realise that. So it was leaked.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were allowed to hear that. I thought it was
when
a matter
I
of...
was listening to it, it was like
we shouldn't.
The person's phone was like going up, and I was like, "Ooh, you recorded this movie in the
I think
theater?"
this is the slightly difficult thing: is that the whole process has been sealed, and then we saw that bit. Now, some people say, "Oh, but what we need is transparency." But I'm not saying it's the same as Brexit. But what we saw with Brexit is an unbelievably complicated decision that we were suddenly being asked to vote on and understand everything about, when we don't vote on trade laws and international economic government things. That's how I call it.
Yeah, for that reason that we call them international economic government things.
Government things.
We don't know. I don't know about
acronym
them.
is, but there is.
Yeah, I don't know about them. I wasn't educated to be
the
honest.
Conservatorship is that the bits and bobs, the giblets, is that everyone suddenly thought they knew everything, and there was a lot of extrapolating. Like when there was, the judge said last week that she was rejecting Britney's petition to remove her father as her co-conservator, and everyone was in uproar, I saw on social media. But that was a petition made in 2020. It wasn't one made this year. What she's talked about in court, she has stated that she does not want to be in a conservatorship, but she hasn't legally petitioned that yet. And it's likely to be a really long process. Multiple legal professionals have said that it could be 2023. Yeah, I've got really confused with the Euros being the 2020 thing. What's going on?
Yes,
so I keep forgetting what year we're in. So
it's
2023. True. And that it could be like a trial, that she will be deposed to give evidence and that a lot of people will be deposed to give evidence. And we have seen just a snapshot of it. What I hope is that she is able to, this conservatorship is dissolved and she is able to be, I don't think that she should have no support. I think just the trauma of the last 13 years and not being able to make any decisions would probably...
Everyone needs support.
Everyone
That's
needs
why we
support,
have
but in a way that
friends.
obviously
That's why
enables
I
her
go
to live
therapy.
the life that she wants to live. However, it is really, really difficult to get out of conservatorship, particularly the kind of conservatorship that she has been in.
Voluntarily in.
So
it's going to take another 3 years to get out of the voluntary.
Well, we're not in 2020, so 2 years.
2 years. 2 years. That's right.
But I mean, we really don't know what will happen. But hopefully, even while all of that is going on, there will be, because there is no scrutiny of conservatorships are so much dicier than guardianships over here. The fact that you can draw a salary, that it's, her co-conservator called it a hybrid business model. The fact that it can be that, hopefully there'll be some kind of scrutiny and auditing.
Yeah, she has to pay her lawyer $520,000 a year.
She has to do that.
She has to pay all of her father's legal bills that he has spent fighting her to remain her conservator as well.
Why does he want to remain her conservator? If he does, if someone said to me, I don't want it to be you, like she at one point said, I'm happy for it to be them, but I'm not happy for it to be you. I would be like, then I shouldn't be on this because you've lost trust in me. Whether or not I think that's because you...
Debs, so naive. He wants to be rich.
Yeah. I mean, he can
There's quite a lot of
mail.
theories, though, about it. Like, he was a troubled guy and they had a troubled relationship. He was an alcoholic when she was growing up and he was kind of frequently absent. And a lot of people close to them thought that when Britney was not doing so well, when she was getting divorced and she had her very young boys taken away, which is heartbreaking, there are people that believe that he clamped down because he was trying to make up for lost time. I'm not saying what he did was right. I'm not saying that that's definitely a reason. But that he was so like, right, this time I'm going to be there. I mean, arguably, he took that
too far.
Yeah.
Because I think if you weren't there for someone's birthday when they were 9, the way to make up for it is probably a really nice... Yeah, it's probably like a really nice necklace when you turn 21. It probably isn't I'll control you forever. I don't know. The film Room is not the answer, probably, I've missed your school play. Now I'll keep you in a room and you'll perform only for me. It's just probably not the answer. Annabel, I feel like you're desperate to come in.
Yeah, some of the things I really feel that need to be acknowledged, and I don't know the ins and outs of Britney's specific situation, just what I've read, like a lot of people here, is that ultimately, she was in a mental health crisis. And as a medical professional, this is really raw for me at the moment. And obviously, can't share all the details because patient confidentiality, and that's really important. But I had a patient last week that was suicidal, trigger warning, suicidal and acutely suicidal. And in my clinic, never happened before, actively suicidal. And it was very traumatic for me but also several members of staff. And what I took home from this, and I already knew this already, there was no support in the system. So I couldn't get an ambulance because COVID, they said they were busy. But what am I supposed to do about this patient? And ultimately, police ended up managing that situation. But I think what people forget is when we're thinking about this Britney situation, and Keema, you brought it up, is that if this is happening to Britney, what's happening to everyday people with no money and no resources? Mm-hmm. And there are lots of kind of policies in place that ultimately the system is not set up to provide like holistic care. Mm-hmm. So the fixation for people that are suffering from like drug misuse, mental health issues is like, how do we make them like less of a danger and a burden to society? Mm-hmm. So we need to kind of stop them having kids because they can't look after those kids and they go into care, and all the other stuff often goes missing, or it's like an afterthought. Mm-hmm. So it's very frustrating because you can't get help for people that they need. The only things people are fixated on is like what costs kind of society money. So it's, cheaper, if it's cheaper for them to go into an institution,
or if it's super cheap, by the way.
And these are the aspects of medicine that I think often don't get talked about. Mm-hmm. And this is why I think the Britney situation is so striking, because yes, she's like this multimillionaire pop star that's found herself in this situation and in many ways is very far removed from people's lives. But actually, it's really, really relevant because so many people have mental health issues. So many people, particularly around COVID, I've seen so many patients that are just on the edge and there's nothing for them.
It feels like you have to do very little, actually, to draw attention to yourself in a way that could restrict your rights. Because we were talking about this before, about when Britney sort of is said to have kind of, lost her way, is she really freaked out at a paparazzo. But they were following her and following her and following her and following her. And she was very young. She'd had these cameras in her face for years and years and years. She had children. She didn't want it anymore. So she shaved her head. She said to make herself less of that pretty Britney that... to say, I'm not interesting to you anymore. Look, I've got kids, I've shaved my head. And then she shaved her head became a sign of mental illness. And I'm like, people are allowed to shave their heads.
Yeah. Can I say quickly that if I was having a crisis or a tough time and police showed up to manage it, that would not be relaxing or helpful for me at all.
No, I mean, it's not what should be happening. Is it?
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that's like not the best way to be managing a situation. But when you're resource strapped and there is no other way to manage a situation, that's what happens and things.
Well, you can't take
escalate.
responsibility for someone, doing the ultimate worst thing. And I feel like at the same time, when people say defund the police, I think what people hear is, there'll be riots all the time. But what mostly people mean is, could you please put some of these resources so that uniformed instruments of the state don't show up when someone needs to be calmed down, to be cared for, when someone needs to hear, I'm so sorry, but your son just died. It's not appropriate to have someone uniformed and armed. It's not appropriate, but we think, that's what we do, is we call the police. And we need to look at these other kind of resources. Did you feel it was weird that she'd shaved her head and that's sort of seen as this touchstone? In comedy, you were saying, Pandora, in comedy and in those sort of late night chat shows, the shaving of the head was seen as such a touchstone of her, mental health state. But people are allowed to, I feel like if Madonna did that, she'd be seen as sort of someone she would be reinventing herself. That we have known pop stars to have shaved heads. Like, why was that seen as such a dramatic thing?
I think because long hair is such a symbol of femininity, and that's kind of the aspiration, isn't it, is to have long Rapunzel locks. And Britney was obsessed with having those locks. There's lots of stories, lots of horrible heat pictures about her hair extensions, which, became progressively ill-applied as she was not necessarily, in a great place. So Britney shaving her head looked like the rejection of everything that had kind of made her her. It was like a sort of I think it was actually a very powerful statement about how she was literally trying to kill a part that the paparazzi owned. Arguably as well, she was taking agency of herself by shaving her head, but she was also making the people filming her. I found it very, very moving to watch and very emotional. She is looking at the paparazzi filming her through the window after she's shaving her head. So she's actually making people, I think, complicit. So obviously we don't know if she did it because she was doing it to feel great or if she was doing it because she was at her wit's end and sort of by that point wanted to just
maybe just some kind of cool performance art.
Who even knows? But also women shaving their head has always been seen as like a really, really terrifying thing. I mean, Sinead O'Connor always got that as well, didn't she? And that's why actually Michaela Cole, I think, seeing her and women like her on screen having shaved heads and, it not being associated with a meltdown as it became part of Britney's mythology, that was her meltdown. She shaved her head and she hit a car with an umbrella. And that was her meltdown forever and ever.
It's not that much, is
I mean,
it?
I've got
I
friends
feel I've
that have
done
done
more.
worse. Yeah.
I feel I've done more.
For
I won't
sure.
share what I've done, but I feel like I haven't. I've said I've done more.
I threw a
Keita Khan.
burrito at my mom.
I think this is so, it's actually fascinating. I hadn't thought about this aspect of the Britney case before, but what is considered the threshold for certain people? There was this, I'm not sure, I think I saw it on Twitter, but there was this case of a young black woman who went to A&E, I think, with an injury, and they tried to get her sectioned because she said that she had gone to Cambridge. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then she had to start rifling in her bag
Obviously
and show them her
delusional.
uni badge and was like, no, I'm literally fine. I did actually go to Cambridge. That was their threshold for them being alarmed that she was delusional, that she was in this A&E as a young black woman saying she'd gone to Cambridge.
It's really horrible.
So I think also what is really fascinating is how medicine views certain groups and the state and what that threshold is and why people are disproportionately diagnosed or how they're treated when they enter into these systems because of the lenses that people are looking at them and the racism or the, you know, queer phobia, whatever it is that's colouring people's judgment as well.
Yeah,
I think that's really interesting as kind of coming from a disabled lens. I was too scared to tell my GP about my mental health diagnosis because I thought it would be used against me when it comes to treatment of my disability, because I have a condition that's quite difficult to diagnose. I went 22 years without a diagnosis, was told that I was faking, was told it was all in my head. And so I was scared to say, you know, yeah, I have OCD and I've been diagnosed with it, because I thought that that would be used against me when trying to access treatment for my physical condition. And that's, you know, a reality that many disabled people face, because we are told so often that we're faking or we're just doing it for attention because of the narrow view that people have of disability. And like when we come back to Britney, everyone's always so kind of desperate in a way to prove that she isn't disabled because she can do all this and she can do that and she's done this. But in reality, I, sitting here, look like a, you know, well put together, in air quotes, person who has makeup on, yet at home, I can't cook my own food. So, you know, I don't look like somebody that wouldn't be able to feed myself, but I need a lot of support for things like that, because disability is so kind of messed up within the media in how we view it. We view it as somebody who is a wheelchair user, and if you're a wheelchair user, that means that you can't do this, this and this, when disabled people can be successful, but we may struggle in other ways. And I think, you know, when we think about mental health as well, so often, you know, we're scared to say, you know, we've got these conditions, and so many disabled people do because of the way that we're treated. And coming back to kind of medicine, and when we're talking about mental health and saving money and things like only 10% of housing is accessible, yet 20%, 25% of the population are disabled. So like everything is just, you know, working against us.
A bit fucked up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's
it's massively skewed against disability. And it's also, we've still got that, in society, that thing of, oh, I don't really know how to deal with it. I don't really know how to look at it. Let's just keep walking and put blinders on. And I think especially with mental health, there's a sort of, I don't know what to say or do. And we just need to be educated better.
It's fascinating. This guy I know that runs a very like kind of big mental health like awareness organization, he was speaking to me, and he suffers from like panic disorder. And he was speaking to me and he goes, oh, but you have bipolar disorder. And that's like quite bad, right? And I was like, how are you in charge of stuff? Like people just really don't understand. And I think like, oh, what the world needs now is to understand what's going on with other people.
Yeah, that would be great.
So just kind of picking up on Eliza's point, I think really cheeky plug, but also very, very pertinent conversation. We did a report, so Decolonising Contraception, some researchers at the University of Lancaster and the British Pregnancy Advisory Service on human rights.
What is decolonising contraception?
Big question. So it was founded about 3 years ago. I found it with other people working in sexual and reproductive health. It's a collective, we're a non-profit. And it was very much started off like through articles, like, as I write as well, on Gal Them, about the kind of history and the legacy of contraception and abortion and reproductive rights, particularly for marginalised groups. So there's quite a long, lengthy history of reproduction kind of being controlled, and the narrative that we can kind of control the fertility of some of the most marginalised groups in society. And I felt that seeing all of the things that we're talking about today and the disparities that we see in healthcare, that it just seemed like nobody wanted to talk about this icky thing, but it was actually very relevant to who gets access to services, my work, how people are treated when they come to clinic. For example, young people and people being like, no, we don't want you to have a child, working class people being like, I don't think you should reproduce if you can't feed that child. And I felt like all those conversations were absent. So basically, I created this space for us to have some of those conversations.
Badass.
So we did this research, and it was looking at long-acting reversible contraception. So methods like the intrauterine device that Britney had, and the depot injection, which some people might use, and implants, and really looking at how it's offered to marginalised groups, so people with disability, young people, racially marginalised groups in the UK. And we've never really looked at it from a UK perspective because there's a lot of research in the US. And basically, the findings, it was through interviews and surveys. So we did 1,000, and 43% of almost 1,000 people that replied to the survey said that they had had reproductive coercion. So that means like feeling like a provider's pressuring you to use something, or feeling like you couldn't take it out when you wanted to have it taken out because somebody either said that they don't have time or you can't get an appointment, which happened a lot during COVID because clinics closed. And a lot of the people that we spoke to were people that were disabled or felt like they couldn't go into a consultation and like advocate for themselves. And so, yes, again, Britney's is really far removed, millionaire pop star, but these things are so alive and well.
But she's still got a coil in her. She doesn't want that. And
exactly.
she has explicitly said, I would like it to be removed. I want to get married and have a child. And the grown-ups around her are saying, what you are capable of is writing songs, choreographing routines, getting out on stage, managing, how many perfumes is it? 9 perfumes or something? $50 million a year that she gets off 9 perfumes? I had maybe 29 perfumes.
Maybe like 29?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I used to have a Britney Spears perfume and I tried to mix it with this orange smelling perfume that I had and it smelled like shit and it was so bad. And I got on the school bus and someone was like, it smells like shit. And I was like, I don't know who that is.
So maybe try those perfumes before you buy them.
Don't mix them.
Don't mix your perfumes or your drinks.
The thing is about her large amount of money, is for anyone to disregard her whatever because she has loads of money, she's supposed to. And I say that because that's how the industry is set up. If she didn't have the amount of money that she had, she would be exploited. She works incredibly hard. She sells loads of tickets. She does all these things. Do you know what I mean? So the issue is not that she has loads of money. If your issue is that she has that economic privilege, then, I don't know, stop buying T-shirts and going to concerts. So the issue is not that she has, hearing that she has a $2,000 a week budget, you might go, that's crazy, but she's Britney fucking Spears,
Absolutely. And until the Glorious Revolution, while we live in capitalism, whichever way you look at it, men and many other women seem to have a lot more access to their own funds. She was, again, Pandora, coming back to you as the Britney expert, the Britneyographer, she was very poor as a child. The family were very poor as a child, when she was a child, yeah?
Yes. Her parents struggled a lot, and actually just before she joined the Mickey Mouse Club, or just as she joined the Mickey Mouse Club, they had their electricity turned off, and Jamie had, gone into the forest to hunt for kind of game to feed them. So they had a very, very working class, rural upbringing, Louisiana. And a lot of people have said that was part of her motivation, or part of her parents' motivation for her to be famous. But she also loved to sing and dance for a tiny, tiny age because she was the entertainer. Mm-hmm. Every time her, dad became furious, she would sing and she would dance because they distracted people, which is quite a famous thing in a lot of entertainers, is they become entertainers.
Hi, Keema Bob reporting for duty.
They become entertainers to try and, distract everyone from the pain
sadness,
of kind of of what's going on. So that obviously became a kind of key part of her identity. But also on the kind of economic privilege thing, obviously she's worth 60 million. That is not a tiny amount. She's not worth anything like what she should be as a pop star of her caliber. Other pop stars like Taylor, Beyonce, Rihanna are all worth 350, 450, 600 million. She's worth 60. She's worth 12, less than half of what J-Lo's worth. And come on.
Yeah.
Britney,
Yeah, Keema and I together are worth...
I can't even count. I can't even count the dollars that I have.
That's not true, is it?
It's not true. I can count. It's so easy. So easy.
Well, okay. If you put Keema and Britney and me together, we have a lot of money.
Yeah, it would be how much is Britney worth?
60 million.
Roughly. It would be 60 million and 1,000 pounds.
Yeah. Hold on, you're not factoring in my overdraft, which is currently minus 1,000. So let's call it the straight 60.
But the thing about it, do you think a lot of her money has been squandered in the conservatorship and stuff?
Well, Jamie got a cut of a lot of her deals. So the Vegas residency she did, which was 4 years long, and she performed 250 shows, that brought in like $130 million, I think. He got 1.5% of that. But also like legal fees, allegedly, I have to do this all the time because it's very litigious, allegedly her legal fees around the conservatorship were like $3 million in a year. You know, she said famously this conservatorship has cost me $3 million this year alone. But the money is coming in, the 50 million from the fragrances, the 120 from Vegas, like, and more, way more, but it's not hitting what's being reported in her account. So yes, it's costing her money in a lot of different ways.
Annabel, can I ask, is it possible for somebody to be doing a show in Vegas for how many performances? 240 performances?
250 over 4 years.
250 performances over 4 years, going out and really putting on an amazing show, and yet not being capable to decide how their money is spent, whether or not they should have a coil fitted, whether or not they should get married. It seems not to me. It seems like if you're capable of going out there and selling that show...
So... Unfortunately, I have to say, actually, from a medical point of view, it is actually. And the way we look at things from a medical point of view, we assess decisions individually. So you can look at overall capacity, and that's when, you know, people are sectioned and they generally are, you know, putting themselves at risk or they need some additional assistance. But then sometimes you look at individual decision-making about a certain thing. So you can have somebody that comes into, I don't know, a clinic or a service that may not have the capacity because of their age. For example, that's how we decide if somebody can have contraception or a termination. So they might not be able to have the ability to make decisions about their financial welfare and their housing decision. But when we look at whether they understand, you know, the repercussions of sex or continuing with that specific thing, we have to say, yeah, they have capacity for that, but not for something else. And that is why also the Britney situation isn't as clear-cut as people might think it is, because, she gets on stage, she performs every day, but in her day-to-day life, she may not be functioning at the capacity where she can necessarily make those decisions. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs. I know that there's been lots of counter-arguments. So some people have said that before her dad got involved, she was also allegedly broke. So the fact that she has any money now is potentially because she's had people manage some of her finances. I don't know.
I feel like I'm a bit reckless or something, but like if she wants to piss away all of her money, that's her right as the person who earned it. And if she's not trying to like harm like herself or her children, then like leave her alone, I feel. Like, I don't know. Who cares if she spends all the money? Why? Why should she? Do you know what I mean? Like, I understand that.
That's my instinct too.
I'm literally
trying to listen to the doctor.
Let her set it on fire. Let her set it on fire and let her cut her hair off again.
Okay, so yes, I hear that. She did burn her gym down, but I don't think it was on purpose. I think, you know, also Rachel from Friends left her hair straighteners on and burnt Phoebe's flat down. We didn't section her. So also she's a character from a sitcom, but do you see what I'm saying? My instinct is to feel like you, Keema. I also feel I should listen to the
wild card as well.
No, I do feel exactly that. It's her freedom, but also I try to listen to the doctor and balance it all out in my head, and I'm failing. I feel like it's like I'm getting an error reading. I don't know. I know we have to finish this show soon, so can I just put to the panel, did anyone come here to say anything they didn't get to say that they want to leave on the table? Or they want to throw a last-minute grenade in for everyone to fight over? That would also be awesome.
I think disabled people have kind of been screaming for years for support, and it's really exciting to see disability rights being spoken about. You know, it's an awful situation, but we are so often missed and so often spoken over. So I think it's really important to free Britney, but to also free all disabled people, and to not forget us, and please be an ally to us, and think about us and raise our voices. It's actually Disability Pride Month in July, and it's not something that I've seen any companies speak about. So we are here, hello. And, you know, the only thing, and this is something that Crutches and Spice has said online, the only thing standing between you and disability is luck and time. So it's something that you want to be learning about now, so that you know, so that you can you know your rights now.
It's true, because as everyone gets elderly, there's, you lose mobility and you lose all sorts of things.
And that's why the disabled community is so diverse. There's so many of us. Mm-hmm. So it's just really important to know that we're here, because at any point, my disability has rapidly got worse over the last year. So it can happen at any time. And I think it's just really important to be aware, we're so often pushed to the side because things aren't accessible. And when things aren't accessible, disabled people aren't seen. And when you don't see us, you don't think about us. So it's just important to know that, we do exist and to hear our voices.
Thank you so much, Eliza. Pandora Sykes, anything else to tell us about Britney or what we can do to help free Britney? Because I think even if we agree that, or even it's not for us to agree or disagree, it's none of our business. But I think we can all agree that it's not, what's happening now doesn't feel great, and it doesn't feel feminist for her to be saying, I don't want my father in charge of me, I don't sign on to this, and yet he continues to control her and take money. Is there anything we could do for the Free Britney campaign that's not irresponsible, basically?
I think there are two things. I think the first thing is that we need to be careful not to assume that we are legal and psychiatric, except for Annabel, experts, and that we're only seeing a soupçon. That's not quite the right word, is it? Yep. Snippet. And that, it's not about, let's take all the shackles and everything off and, to hell with everything, as it's much more complicated, and it's just about the support that she wants rather than what's being placed on her. And the other thing is to stop talking about but we don't treat women or pop stars like that anymore. Yes, we have more knowledge to talk about. Say, as a mother of 2 young children, we probably would have spoken more compassionately now about her mental health than it being reported in Heat magazine and the like at the time. But from very early on, years before she was in conservatorship, she was still being directed by the entertainment industry. And whereas women aren't abused openly in magazines and newspapers the way they were 20 years ago, they still are in the anonymous comment section on social media. So every time you see a young female pop star or influencer or, I don't know, Emily Ratajkowski holding her baby wrong, that's been a recent one, isn't it? Don't go and write, your baby's neck's going to fall off. You are contributing to the same thing that keeps women being told the whole time who they are, how they should behave, what they're capable of, what their limits are. So I think to look at the bigger picture about how she got to the point where this happened to her, because I think it started a long time before.
I'm sorry about what I said about Love Island.
It's a really good point, that we can contribute to 100%. It. Although I don't think you said anything mean about Love Island.
I did. I actually did.
Annabel, anything you came to say you didn't get to say, or is there any way we can support decolonising contraception?
Yeah, sure. I feel like I should admit that I'm also a guilty Love Island fan. I need that break. So, firstly, I think for all the flaws that medicine has in terms of how historically it's kind of come into being and people that it doesn't do justice for, and the stereotypes that people enact, sometimes health professionals on certain groups, free, accessible healthcare is just so important in terms of having a fair society where we have social mobility. And I cannot stress enough how we have to fight for the NHS that we have. And when we look at other systems, how much disadvantage it creates when people can't access free care.
Ooh, so, as an American, let me say amen.
Yeah, honestly, and obviously we've seen it with the pandemic, but I just really want to reiterate that people should do what they can. So Medac's a really great charity of healthcare workers mobilising around different health issues, and people should really support, if you see your local service is suffering funding cuts, because ultimately in my sector, we've had so many cuts, tens of millions of pounds of cuts in sexual reproductive health services, which disproportionately affects usually those living with HIV, women accessing contraception, gay men, and the end result is marginalised groups suffer. So just as much as you can, we have to fight for our services, because ultimately it ends in inequality. And I just feel like, it's massive love for free accessible healthcare, and we all should just fight for it. It's such a privilege.
Great, wonderful. And Grace, have you got anything to say that you came to say that you didn't get to say?
Yeah, I hope that this is opening up a conversation of kind of how pop stars are sort of treated, because you would look at someone like Britney and not realise that she was sort of being forced to do things that she doesn't want to do. And I think, I was actually speaking to my hairdresser about it today, who is the biggest Britney fan ever. And I was like, I went to her Vegas show and I watched her, and then I listened to her speak about how she didn't really want to be there. And he felt awful because he was like, I feel like I've contributed to that. And I think it's really interesting to see how many artists are locked into things and aren't allowed to escape, and you think that they have it all. I don't know if anyone here knows an artist called Ray, who is currently going through something at the moment. She's been signed into a major record deal for 7 years, and it's a 4-album deal, and she's still not been allowed to release her first album. And she's in pieces, and I was signed to a major label and wasn't allowed to release for 2.5 years. And that's, I feel like I've had not even a taster menu of what a lot of artists have had to go through.
You weren't allowed to release for 2.5 years?
Yeah, and
why
I feel
won't
like
they let you release?
Ask them. I don't know. And I think it's something that isn't talked about enough, is that artists are told that they can't speak on things because they're in fear of the big dogs, of the labels, and of the dads, who have so much control over their careers, when actually, you think you are a big pop star, you should be have control over these things and
oh, trust. I feel you. Like a month ago, I was like curled up on my couch, looking at my ceiling, like, is this my life? Why is this my life? And I was like, this isn't the dream. Yeah,
it's not the dream, but you don't realise that as an outsider. And I hope that it opens up a conversation of, how rock star is it to go to rehab? Well, no, they're just fucking off the rails because they're being forced to do things probably that they don't really want to do. And I don't think a lot of people realise that.
Thank you, Grace.
That's all right.
Would you like to hear some stand-up comedy from Keema Bob? Woo! Keema Bob, everybody!
We've been talking about a bunch of unfortunate things, but in all the unfortunate, we have a lot to be grateful for. So I'm going to get you guys to have a little gratitude practice with me. Your girl's been meditating. I'm on that tay-tay every morning. Give me a woo if you have more than 5 pounds. Oh, my God, you rich people, lend me some money. Give me a woo if you have had great sex in the past year. Yeah. Give me a woo if you had a great wank in the past year. Yes, exactly. The second one should always be louder. Don't wait for other people to give you what you can give yourself. That's a great top. Can we talk about it? Where did you get that top from? Shine. Oh my God, there's a lot of scandal around them right now, isn't there? I don't know what's going on in the interwebs. Sorry, that's not... Tom is like, Keema, please stop. I'm going to have to cut that out. I just want to know about shirts. I think it can be tough with all the things going on to remain positive and grateful, but we got to try. One thing I'm not happy about is all the rules that we now have in this society, because you know me, I'm just rebellious. Like, watch this. I just kicked something on stage. I'm a bad girl. I don't care. I do what I want. I just remember back in the day when society was simple to be a part of, and we had 2 rules to follow, just 2, and it was like, don't steal, don't kill. And even then, sometimes we would mess up and forget. Yeah, I've done some murders. You remember, no one was holding you back. You can do whatever you want. You used to be able to walk down the street, just spit in a stranger's mouth. Nobody would stop you. Not anymore. PC culture gone mad. I feel like anxious now that we're back out. Like now that I'm faced with other people's gaze on the sidewalk. Does it freak you out to like be out and have to like be looked at and look at people and you're like, oh, how do we do it? Is it down? Is it up? To the side? Do I nod? Do we nod at each other? Okay. I'm from Texas. Our reputation is being like, howdy, neighbor. And so I just like aggressively yell compliments at people and I'd be like, I like that shirt. You see, that's just kind of my thing. I'd be like, wow, your hair is gorgeous. And nobody liked it before the pandemic. They still don't. So not a lot has changed. I find it just, I don't know, I get really self-conscious about it because I'm just like, why are you looking at me? And I feel like defensive about it because for so long, no one was looking at us. We were on the streets, we were alone, baby. Ow, just us and the foxes. Like everybody was just living their life in there. We were locked in our houses and it was not great, but we didn't have to deal with the gaze of strangers. And now that we're back out, I find that I'm just like really defensive about it and like self-conscious about it. And I'm like, what are you looking at? And I look at people and I'm like she's like, like trying to give off like a toughness. She's like, what are you gonna do? And like I've never been in a fight before, but people codify black people to be violent, and I'm gonna use it to my advantage when I can. Like they don't know that. I forget sometimes that I am quite a snack and a sight to see, but also that I literally have a teal afro, and they don't happen all the time, and people are gonna want to look at that. I have a rule. I feel like 5 to 10 seconds, that's a friendly observation. Over that, at this point, you're rude, or you're interested in me romantically. Don't just look, say something. It's nonsense. Like, I'm not saying that I'm like a special person, yeah? I'm just saying that, like, if I want to get a free meal at a restaurant, I can't use my own hair strands. Like, just doesn't work. Like, you kind of pull it out of the soup like, excuse me, waiter! What the hell is this? This tightly coiled, well-moisturized piece of hair that starts at a dark brown that is almost black but not quite and artfully fades to a bluish green? It just doesn't. Gotta bring hair from other people. That's why I hang out with Deborah. I just take her hair. Could be anybody's hair. Just put it in there. I've been watching a lot of TV. Love it so much. Very exciting stuff. Can you guys give me a woo if you identify with what I'm about to say in a moment? Give me a woo if you like to watch school shows about like American teenagers who are always trying to get into a prestigious college but also can't stop doing murders. Oh, so good. Why do they keep killing each other? Makes no sense. Like every episode is always like, oh my God, I really hope that I don't get in trouble for being late to class. Also, how do you get blood out of these jeans? Like, it's so good. They're always like, oh, now that I got a C- on my quiz, I'll never get into the same college as my boyfriend. Also, do you guys remember where we hid the body? So good. There's always like the jock with the secret. The secret is he's gay. Okay. Like, we won't tell anybody. Like, I watch it and I pretend like I don't know. Like in episode 1, he's like overly aggressive and stuff. He just like keeps like, he's like bullying like the one gay kid. And then I'm just like, okay, I see how your character arc is gonna go. I'll wait until you come out in episode 5. So good. I also have been watching more like a Freeview than ever before. Previously, I was just watching loads of Netflix because I was trying to pretend to myself that I was still in America. But I thought, hey, let's get real. This is where you live now. See what these people are on about. And I gotta say, some of the commercials, alarming. Like Scottish widows. Very confused by this, because I'm sitting in my house, minding my business, or watching TV, having a great time, when I hear my television say to me that Scottish widows want to invest in my future. And as a sentence, it's alarming because I don't know any Scottish widows. And why do they care about me? I'm just kind of like, excuse me, Scottish widows, is life so debilitating without your live spouse that you just want to throw your money at strangers? You don't even know if I'll appreciate it, Scottish widows. Well, good thing you ran into me, because what I want to do is to empower you. I want to pump you up, Scottish widows. You are more than just a supportive partner. You are a nationwide bank train. Okay, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. I also am so freaked out by like Lloyd's Bank commercials. What are they doing? What are they saying? Like, because you'll be watching your TV, mind your business, having a great time, and there will be like a woman in a bathtub, like giving birth, surrounded by, you've seen it, surrounded by like a group of like her friends, and they're like chanting, and they're like, birth is beauty, birth is life, birth is beauty, birth is life, birth is beauty, birth is life. And you'll say to yourself, wow, this commercial is obviously for prenatal vitamins, or at the very least friendship, right? And then just like some big ass horses will just like clomp across the screen, and you're supposed to be like, this is about money. Makes no sense to me. Someone should talk to the bank people. Also, can we make a note that those horses are very muscular and attractive? Those are some thick ass horses. Always a little baby one as well. Like, they run with the whole family. That's nice. Guys, I got my first cat call since lockdown last week. Thank you so much. It meant a lot to me. It was a great moment. It was really creative. I appreciated it so much. The guy literally yelled after me. He goes, "Nice body!" And I replied, "Who, me? I have nice body? Oh, thank you. Oh, I didn't know I had body, let alone nice one. Thank you so much. Do you want to touch?" He didn't want to touch. I don't know why. They don't like it. They don't like it when you sound like that. I can't explain it at all. I thought it would make me more attractive, if anything. I think it was kind of the crab leg and I don't know. I just thought that's how you reel them in. Is that how you reel them in? Like when someone's like, "Hey, you should smile," and you're like this? Like, I don't know. You guys have been absolutely lovely. I've been Keema Bob.
Keema Bob, everybody! Hello, Guilty Feminist. Just before we let Grace play us out, this is me, Deborah, later in the week. I just wanted to say a couple of words because Britney Spears has said even more this week about how unhappy she is, how controlled she feels. And whatever anybody thinks about conservatorships, and there are clearly cases where some people may benefit from support, this really doesn't feel in any way like support. This feels like control. And I think this is a case where we do have to believe women, and that whatever's right for Britney, it clearly isn't this. She says she's being controlled by men she doesn't trust, and that has to change. So we give Britney Spears our full support, and we really, really hope that soon she will be happy and surrounded by supportive people she loves and trusts. And now back to the live podcast. Please follow Keema Bob on all of the socials and catch her on all of the TV shows she's on now.
Oh my God.
It's true though. And please give Disabled Eliza a follow. She's Disabled Eliza on all of the socials. And check out MedAct and Decolonizing Contraception, and maybe throw some money their way.
Yeah, you're on Twitter, aren't you? She tweets. It's only about Love Island, though, so if you...
Yeah. Love Island and serious medical conditions.
Dr. Annabel Sowemimo is on Twitter as well.
She certainly is. And Pandora Sykes is also all over your socials. Google for her writing and listen to BBC Sounds Pieces of Britney. Also, I'm Deborah Frances-White. If you could, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast and give it 5 stars, that would be awesome. You can rate, review, and subscribe every episode.
Nobody listened to it, Deb. Stop trying.
These people have shown up So if you could rate, review, and subscribe tonight, apparently it helps people find the podcast. So I stopped asking for that ages ago, but you can do it to more than one episode. So you might think I've done that. No, you have to do it to every episode. And I'm at DFDubs on Instagram and.
Please add Deborah on Facebook.
Don't. On MySpace.
On LinkedIn, please.
Yeah, don't do that. I'm at DFDubs on Instagram and I'm at Deborah FW on Twitter. Oh, and if you're listening in Australia or New Zealand, I'm coming at you in October, November. So please book seats. If you are here tonight, on the 10th and 11th of September, we're going to be at the Queen Elizabeth Hall, and it's going to be I believe, not socially distanced. We don't know about the masks yet because it's September. We'll probably be okay for no masks at that point. So if you're the kind of people that come out, and you are, I can see you, you're here, then buy tickets for that before they all go. One of those nights is going to be a Pride show because it coincides with London Pride, and we've got some very exciting guests in the mix. But it's going to be more of an all-singing, all-dancing one with a bunch of comics and musicians, and, it'll be really fun. So buy tickets now because they will all go, and we want you all there. Grace, what is your socials, and where can we download your music in real life?
So my Twitter is Grace Davis and Instagram is Grace Davis Official. And then I'm just on everywhere, Spotify, iTunes, Grace Davis. Got a few songs out, another coming out in a couple of weeks, more
Wonderful.
to come this year.
We're very excited, and we'll all become big fans. I feel like I'm slightly cheating on Grace Petrie by having another Grace sing on the show. But in a way, the more Grace, the better. We need some Grace in this country at the moment. And can I say a big thank you to everyone who has tuned in from around the world, especially Gavin from Canada. Gavin says King's Place was trying to get us to leave.
To beat the crowd. Oh, Gavin. Gavin at one point also said that he wanted your shirt.
I too saw that, and I also want the shirt.
And somebody says
I think
people are saying thanks for live streaming it, and it's really great to have your support. So thank you so much. If you've tuned in and you're live streaming, we really appreciate it. Gavin's saying bye. Gavin, you're going to miss. Oh no, he's back. Okay, all right.
Chill out, Gavin.
Hi everyone. He's saying, yeah. Gavin's now excited because we're reeling him in. All right, Grace Davies, what are you going to sing for us tonight?
Okay, I'm going to sing two of my own songs.
Great.
So the first one, by the way, I'm a very depressing songwriter. Ballads all round. But the first one is called I Met a Boy Online, which I wrote in my flat alone in lockdown. As you do, Tinder, swipe, I met a boy online. There you go. So yeah, this is the first one. Boy online, we talk all the time. He lives in my city and tells me I'm pretty. Does he know he lies? I met a boy online, I wish he was mine. But it's just a distraction, it won't ever happen. He's wasting his time. 'Cause what if he sees me in person and hates me like I do? He'll pretend that it's not true, but it's always the same. Then I'll lie in my bed and go cry to my friends, it's a routine. 'Cause why would he want me when I am this way? Oh, why would he want me? I met a boy online, he calls every night, right when I need him, and I get a feeling he's reading my mind. And maybe he'll find out what's feeding my doubt. See, I've never felt wanted. If I'm being honest, I don't know how. And what if he sees me in person and hates me like I do? He'll pretend that it's not true, but it's always the same. Then I'll lie in my bed and go cry to my friends, it's a routine. 'Cause why would he want me when I am this way? Oh, I wish I could let you inside, let you love me, let you love me. Oh,
I could change your mind and let you love me, let you love me. Oh, what if he sees me in person and hates me like I do? Don't pretend that it's not true. It's always the same. Then I'll lie in my bed and go cry to my friends. It's a routine, 'cause why would he want me when I am this way? Oh, why would he want me? Why would he want me? Why would he want me?
Happy Monday. Very happy vibes. Okay, I've got one more and I won't keep you any longer because it's a Monday and football didn't come home and we're just all a bit tired. So, but yeah, this next one is called Testosterone and it's about being cheated on. Yay. And just how like boys will be boys is not an excuse. So yeah, this is Testosterone and it came out a few weeks ago. So if you want to go listen, you can.
I recognize your whiskey lips, but not that perfume. Recite your lines, then go off script, yeah, you always do. You're only a man and you got your needs. How could I understand what I'll never be? You don't think with your heart when you're thinking of me. And I can't do this anymore. You're the only one who hurts me most. You lie, you leave and don't pick up your phone. And now you're blaming your testosterone like that's an excuse. And you go cold. Don't show emotion, keep your heart like stone. 'Cause if you showed it, all your boys would know. Yeah, you can blame it on testosterone, but I'm blaming you. You only tell me that you love me when we're in the dark. And if I ask you for commitment, I'm pushing too hard. You're only a man and you got your needs. How could I understand what I'll never be? You don't think with your heart when you're thinking of me. And I can't do this anymore. You're the only one who hurts me most. You lie, you leave and don't pick up your phone. And now you're blaming your testosterone like that's an excuse. And you go cold. Don't show emotion, keep your heart like stone. 'Cause if you showed it, all your boys would know. Yeah, you can blame it on testosterone, but I'm blaming you. No, I'm not the only one who's hurting most. You've got emotion in there, boy, I know. Baby, please don't let a good thing go.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Grace Davies, everybody! Thank you so much. Download her music tonight. She's fantastic. We've been the Guilty Feminist. A big round of applause for all of our guests and everyone here at King's Place. Thank you so much. Please come out again, buy tickets, share the podcast. You've been wonderful. We love you. I'm Deborah. Good night. You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Keema Bob, and our very special guest, Disabled Eliza, Dr. Annabel Sowemimo, Brace Davies and Pandora Sykes. The Guilty Feminist theme tune was composed by Mark Hodge and produced by Nick Sheldon. The producer was Tom Salinsky for The Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Zoe, Tom and everyone at King's Place, as well as all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com. I want to get our guests on, so I'm going to get you to do your stand-up later. Is that okay?
Gorgeous. Oh,
Lovely.
I'll never do it.
These people have paid for stand-up comedy from you.
All right, it'll happen at some point, but if it doesn't, I'm not mad.
Okay. All right. Are we ready for our guests? Okay.